Okay, here we are. Today is day 5 on the Advent of Cyber Challenge. And today's challenge is IDOR, Santa's Little IDOR. Okay. And of course, we have our video 1, video 2 for today's task or challenges, if you will. And before we go ahead and begin, we do have task 1, introduction, task 2, IDOR on a shelf. Okay. And little disclaimer here. I'm not a cybersecurity professional. I have no experience in or with cybersecurity, so I'll be taking on these challenges as a beginner, just like other beginners would. So you might see me stop, research, look a few things up, and I'll just say sorry, not sorry for that. So here we go. Today is day 5. All right, so task 1, we're going to go ahead and jump into. The elves of Wareville are on high alert since McSkitty went missing. Recently, the support team has been receiving many calls from parents who can't activate vouchers on the TryHackMe website. They also mentioned they are receiving many targeted phishing emails containing information that is not public. The support team is wary and has enlisted the help of TBFC staff. When looking into this peculiar case, they discovered a suspiciously named account named Sir Carabane, which has many vouchers assigned to it. For now, they have deleted the account and retrieved the vouchers. But something is going on. Can you help the TBFC staff investigate the TryPresentMe website and fix the vulnerabilities? So we have our objectives for today. We're going to understand the concept of authentication and authorization. We're going to learn how to spot potential opportunities for insecure direct object references, which is what IDORs is. Actually, it's funny because I was going to end up looking that up. So let me pull up my friend here, Duck.ai. And any questions that I have, I'm just going to go ahead and jump in here and ask if I need assistance. Okay, and we're also going to exploit IDOR to perform horizontal privilege escalation, and then we'll learn how to turn IDOR into SDOR, which is secure direct object reference. So right here, connecting the machine. So before moving forward, we can review the questions below and the connection card shown. So today's connection card is VM plus attack box. So it looks like we're going to need the attack box today, the VM today. We do not have split screen available, which is subject because it said that on a couple challenges and we do actually have it. It also says that there is no direct link available, and as well, we will not have credentials to connect directly to the VM via RDP, VNC, or SSH. This little snippet here is just telling us how we can start both the attack box, which is right here, and the target machine. So we can launch the target machine by clicking Start Machine. And we see the two pop-ups here, starting machine, hooray, your machine is started. And right up here, we do have the target machine shown. We're just waiting for the IP address to populate. So we have about 45-ish seconds or so. And as well, for the attack box, we can go ahead and launch that by clicking Start Attack Box. And would you look at that? We do actually have split screen available. And down here, our question for today, answer the question below. My target machine and attack box have started and I'm ready to learn about IDOR. So we can go ahead and click check here. Amazing, you've hit a 70 streak. Perfect. Close this. And right up top here, we have our we have our attack box here with the IP 1064.90.96 and the target machine, which will appear in about 7 seconds or so, and that will have a separate IP. Of course, your IPs will be different from mine. And right there, we do have the attack box IP, and now we have the target machine IP as well. All right, so we can move on to task 2 while we're waiting for the machine to load here. And this is just going to be our runtime counter. So we do have this machine available for up to 2 hours. I do have a premium subscription, so that may be a little bit different for you. I'm not 100% certain. All right, so IDOR on the shelf. And it looks like they're doing a little bit of a play on words here. So IDOR, and it's dangerously obvious, really. Have you ever seen a link that looks like HTTPS and then this here, awesome.website.thm/track package package ID equals 1001. When you saw a link like this, have you ever wondered what would happen if you simply changed the package ID to 11 or 12? In its simplest form, this can be a potential case for IDOR, or as we saw right here, insecure direct object references, which is a type of access control vulnerability that arises when an application uses user-supplied input to access objects directly. The term IDOR was popularized by its appearance in the OWASP 2007 Top 10. All right, so I'm going to pause right here. I know we got to come back to this portion, but our attack box has loaded. So we're going to go ahead and close this, and this is the attack box that we're going to be working from. And back to what we were reading here. So IDOR stands for Insecure Direct Object Reference, and is a type of, so basically what we just read, and is a type of access control vulnerability. Web applications often use references to determine what data to return when you make a request. However, if the web server doesn't perform checks to ensure you are allowed to view that data before sending it, it can lead to a serious sensitive information disclosure. A good question to ask then is, why does this happen so often? So we need to understand references in web development a bit more to answer this. So we're going to take a look at what a table sorting these package numbers from our link example could or would look like. So we have 4 columns here, 1, 2, 3, 4, package ID, person, address, and status. And we see the package ID numbers here, the person's name, the address associated, and the statuses, which would be delivered, in transit, out for delivery, pending, and returned. Now, if the user wants to know the status of their package and makes a web request, the simplest method is to allow the user to supply their package ID. We recover data from the database using the simplest SQL query of, and we can see the query string here, which is select person, comma, address, comma, status from packages where package ID equal value. And this would have the value of the package ID, such as 1003, 4, 5, so on. So however, since package ID is a sequential number, it becomes pretty obvious to guess the package IDs of the other customers. And since the web application isn't verifying that the person making the request is the same person as the one who owns the package, an IDOR vulnerability appears, allowing attackers to recover the details for packages belonging to other users. Even worse is when a feature like this doesn't require a user to authenticate, and there would be no way to even tell who is making the request. To dive a bit deeper, we need to understand authentication, authorization, and privilege escalation. So we have right here a note from one of the co-authors of this task, and they state, I am not a fan of their vulnerability, name IDOR. I prefer the name authorization bypass. If you want to understand my reasoning, expand here, but you do not need to be bored with the details. So let's just click into it. Why not? And it doesn't obviously relate. So the full term insecure direct object reference sounds fancy, but it doesn't really describe what's going wrong. The direct object reference part just means that a system uses an ID like /user or /user/1 to point to something. That's not the problem. The real issue is that the system doesn't check whether the person making the request is allowed to access it. So a lot of people try to fix IDORs by hiding or encoding IDs. For example, changing /user/1 to /EA21F09B2. That might make it look harder to guess, but if the server still isn't checking for permissions, it's just as insecure. Makes sense? The vulnerability isn't about how the object is referenced, it's about missing authorization checks. That's why I prefer to call it the authorization bypass instead. It explains exactly what's happening. Someone is bypassing the rules to decide who can see or change something, whether the ID is a number, a hash, or a random string. The risk stays the same if the server doesn't verify access. You can read more here if you want. I think we're going to go ahead and bypass that and come up here, close this, and we have identity defines our reach. To understand the root cause of IDOR, it is important to understand the basic principles of authentication and authorization. So we have those right here broken down for us. Authentication is the process by which you verify who you are. For example, supplying your username and password. Authorization is the process by which the web application verifies your permissions. For example, are you allowed to visit the admin page of the web application, or are you allowed to make a payment using a specific account? And we're going to keep moving on here. So you may think authentication only happens once you supply your username and password. But that is actually not the case. After providing your credentials, you receive a cookie or a token called session information. Every subsequent request you make to the application includes the session information, which is verified by the application. The initial verification process is still authentication and happens for each request. This is why websites will often redirect you back to the login page. It means your session information has expired, and thus, you need to authenticate or re-authenticate with your credentials to receive a new session information / token, cookie, so on. Authorization cannot happen before authentication. Makes sense? If the application doesn't know who you are, it cannot verify the permissions of that your user has. This is very important to remember. If IDOR doesn't require you to authenticate, such as log in or provide session information, and such as in our package tracking example, we will have to fix authentication first before we can fix authorization issue of making sure that the users only get information about the packages of which they own. So the last bit of this theory to cover is privilege escalation types. We have vertical privilege escalation and horizontal privilege escalation. And vertical refers to privilege escalation where you gain access to more features. For example, you may be a normal user on the application but can perform actions that should be restricted for an administrator. Horizontal escalation refers to the privilege escalation where you use a feature you are authorized to use but gain access to data that you are not allowed to access. For example, you should only be able to see your account, not someone else's account. Also makes sense, so left to right and moving up. So IDOR is usually a form of horizontal privilege escalation. You are allowed to make use of the track package functionality, but you should be restricted to only performing that tracking action for packages you own. Now that we understand the theory, let's look at how to exploit IDOR practically. So again, another play on the acronym here. So iterate digits, observe responses. Let's start with the simplest example of IDOR. On the web application, let's authenticate to the application using the details below. So let's copy this. And let's open the browser in the attack box here. And bear with me while it loads. And it looks like it does provide us with a username and a password for this web application as well. And a photo example of the dashboard that we would see. So we're going to go ahead and paste this in, hit enter, and let's copy the password here. And for the username, looks like Niles or Niels, and paste that password. Let's log in. Okay, so we have the account information, we have the email, ID number, address, and children associated. So we have Bilbo, Johnny, Turst, Test2, and so on, as well followed by my vouchers. Okay, scroll down here. We're going to start by using the developer tools of our browser to better understand what is happening in the background. So we're going to right click on the page and click inspect, and then click the network tab as shown below. Right click, inspect, little pop up here, and we have the different tabs here at the top: inspector, console, debugger, network, style editor, performance, memory, storage, accessibility, and application. So we're going to click the network tab. And now that we've done that, we need to refresh the page to see what happens and see what requests are being made. It should look something like this. So we're going to go ahead and refresh the page. And now we can see here we're getting these. Let's do this. Let's put this in a full screen mode. There we go. Let's come here, exit split view, and here we go. So now that we've refreshed the page, we should be able to see these GET requests. And we're going to pull this up just a bit here. And we can see we do have these GET requests as well. Okay. So let's take a closer look at the View Account Info request. Click on it and you will see the following. Okay, so we're going to come to this one here, and we see a little pop-up on this right-hand side, just so we can get a better overview. And we have this additional information here. as well as the get request information. Okay. In the above image, we can see that the user ID with the value of 10 was used for the request. If we click and expand the response tab, we can see that the user ID corresponds to our user. So over here we have headers, cookies, request, and response tab. And we do see the user ID of 10, our username, email, first, last name, ID number, address, city, state, postal code, and country, as well as the children associated. Okay, so let's come back over. This tells us that the application is using our user ID as the reference for getting details. Let's see what happens when we change this. In the developer tools, navigate to the storage tab and expand the local storage dropdown on the left side and click the URL inside. Okay, so we're going to go to the storage tab, come back in, click this here, local storage, click this here, and we do see our authorization token as well as our authorized user. So we see the user ID, email, and the role, which is parent. Okay. So let's change the user ID to 11 and see what happens. Double click the value field of the auth user data entry and update the user ID to 11 and save it by pressing enter. Now refresh the page. All of a sudden, it seems like you are in a completely different user. Okay, so we're going to come back here, double click, click right here, clear out that 0, add in the 1, enter, and then I think it said we need to refresh. So we're going to bring this down a bit. We can see the email currently is niels@webmail.thm. So let's do a refresh. And yes, so we see the email now is test@test.com. Okay. So this is the simplest form of IDOR. Simply changing the user ID to something else means we can see other users' data. Some IDORs might be slightly more hidden. Just because you don't see a direct number doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So let's dive deeper. To continue on to the next challenge of the task, go and change the ID back to 10 using the same steps you did and follow above. Alternatively, you can log out of the application and just log back in with the username and ID or username and password. We're just going to go ahead, come to local storage, select this, double click, clear out that 1. Ooh. Maybe. There we go. Enter, and we're going to refresh again. Okay, and again, another play on the IDOR here. So in disguise, obvious references. Sometimes IDOR may not be as simple as just a number. In certain cases, encoding may have been used. On the loaded profile, click the I icon next to the first child as shown in the image below. So we're going to locate Bilbo and then click the I or view icon. Okay. I think we need to go back to network. Maybe. I don't know. Let's click this here. Yes. And we can see some additional information here that popped up. Yep. Go back to the network tab and look at the requests being made. You should see a request like this. And we did. We saw those 2 items there. And if we select that, it looks like we can see some more information on the right-hand side. So simply put, the MG == is just a base 64 encoded version of the number 2. You could still perform IDOR using the request, but you would have to base 64 encode that number first. So let's go back here, pull this up just a bit, select this, and yes, we do see child ID 2. Let's go into headers. It's really not all that hidden if it's the child ID of 2. So in digests, objects remain. Encoding isn't the only thing that can be used to hide potential IDOR vulnerabilities. Sometimes the values may look like a hash, such as MD5 or SHA-1. If you want to see what that would look like, take a look at the request that happens when you click the edit icon next to the child's name. So let's go back again. Bring this down just a bit. Scroll up, close this, select edit. Okay, so we do see, bring this up, these additional items here. So MD5. And we can also see right here, it's using an MD5 hash. Wonder if we can see anything under headers. And right there, MD5 hash. Okay. So while the string may look random, upon further investigation, you can see that it is a type of hash. If we understand what value was used to generate the hash, we can perform an IDOR attack by simply replicating the hash function using something like hash identifier. So let's go ahead and open this here. And let's copy this right here. Come into file or the hashes.com, paste, and submit to identify. And right there, possible algorithms, MD5. Okay. So it's deterministic, obviously reproducible. Sometimes you have to dig quite deep for IDOR. Sometimes IDOR is not as clear, and sometimes the IDOR stems from the actual algorithm being used. In this last case, let's take a look at our vouchers. While the values may look random, we need to investigate what algorithm was used to generate them. Their format looks like a UUID. Let's see what that stands for. Universal Unique Identifier is a 128-bit value used to uniquely identify an object, entity, or information within a particular system or knowledge database. Okay. So let's use a website such as UUID Decoder. So let's go ahead and open link in new tab. Oh, lovely, a bunch of pop-ups. And let's go back. And what do they say we need to do? Sometimes IDOR. Let's take a look at the vouchers. Okay, so let's bring this down just a bit here. We're going to cancel this. And we have the voucher section. So let's just go ahead and copy one of these items. Go in here. Oh, nice, lovely. Another pop-up. And paste that. Decode UUID. Standard string format, which is right here. Single integer value shown here. And the version type is 1. Okay. While these look completely random, we can see that the UUID version is 1. 1 was used. The issue with UUID 1 is that we know the exact date when the code was generated. We can recover the UUID. For example, suppose we knew the elves always generated vouchers between 20 and 2100. So basically 8 and 9 o'clock would be in the PM. In that case, we can generate UUIDs for that entire time period. So 3600 UUIDs since we have 60 minutes and 60 seconds in a minute, which we could use in a brute force attack to aim to recover a valid voucher and get more gifts. Now that we have seen the various IDORs that can be found, let's discuss how to fix them and avoid them. So, improve design, obliterate risk. Now that we learned about what IDOR is, let's discuss how to fix it. The best way to stop IDOR is to make sure the server checks who is asking for the data every time. It's not enough to hide or change the ID number. The system must confirm that the logged in user is authorized to see or change that information. Don't rely on tricks like base64 or hashing the IDs. Those can still be guessed or even decoded. Instead, keep all the real permission checks on the server. Whenever a request comes in, check, does this user own or have permission to view this item? Use random or hard to guess IDs for public links. But remember, the random IDs alone don't make your app safe. Always test your app by trying to open another user's data and making sure it's blocked. Finally, record and monitor failed access attempts. They can be early signs of someone trying to exploit an IDOR. Okay, so our questions here. We have 3 questions, it appears, a bonus task, and another bonus task, and then, of course, if we enjoyed the room or not. All right, so what does IDOR stand for? Well, that was Insecure Direct Object Reference. Oh, let's try that again. And what type of privilege escalation are most IDOR cases? Well, that was horizontal. And exploiting the IDOR found in view accounts parameter, what is the user ID of the parent that has 10 children? Exploiting the IDOR found in view accounts parameter, what is the user ID of the parent? Okay, so let's go back here. Pull this up. Let's go, it was in storage. And then we went into local storage. And we're in 10 now. And I don't think that they had 10 children. No, they had 5. So let's go ahead and change this to, we already did 11. There was no kids in 11. Let's go to 12. Refresh this. And we have tested test again, no children. Let's go to local storage, drop that down. And let's change this to 13. Refresh. We have bunny at badbunny.thm. Okay, also no children in here. Local storage one more time. And let's try 14. Refresh. And we have pickle at rick.thm. So they have 2 children, Morty and Morty. And local storage. That's funny. Never seen the show, but I do know the characters. Rick and Morty. All right, so 15. Enter. Refresh. And here we have Sir Breeds a Lot at 10children.thm. Well, I'm assuming 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10. And that user ID was 15. So let's come back, do 15, enter, and bonus task. If you want to dive deeper, use either the base64 or MD5 child endpoint and try to find the ID number of the child born on 2019 4/17, so April 17th of 2019. To make the iteration faster, consider using something like burp intruder. If you want to check your answer, check the hint on the question. Awesome. So I don't think this is really a great beginner bonus task, because if you've never used Burp Suite or Burp Intruder or Burp Tools, I don't know how you would necessarily do that. So let's just go ahead and check this here. We can't always look at the, so it was 19, okay. And want to go even further, using the /parents/vouchers/claim endpoint, find the voucher that is valid on the 20th of November, 2025. Insider information tells you that the voucher was generated exactly on the minute, where somewhere, exactly on the minute, somewhere between, what? Insider information tells you that the voucher was generated exactly on the minute, somewhere between 100 hours and 24, so between 8 and 12 that day. What is the voucher code? I'm going to be honest, even the wording already is like very choppy. And again, if you have to use tools like Burp Suite, Burp Intruder, Burp so on, and you've never used those tools before, I don't see how this is a beginner-friendly task. So we're going to just go ahead and mark that as check. Of course, if you want to check your answer, you're more than welcome to do so by clicking this. and that would be the voucher code or voucher ID. And if you enjoyed today's room, check out our complete IDOR room. So I'm just going to go ahead and click check again. Okay, continue. Ooh, actually, let's go back. I want to copy this in a little bit here. And continue. Your skills are skyrocketing. What to improve. And just for my thumbnail, I'm going to take a snippet of this here for later. Go ahead and close that. Continue. Close here. Now we need to close our machines or terminate these. So we're going to go ahead and terminate the attack box. Close that. And we can close out of the hashes.com, UUID. Now we're back at TryHackMe. And let's terminate this last one here. Okay, that is going to be it for day 5.